You need to transfer title and you don't have a living trust? Well, stick around and we're going to explain how to do that in just a moment. Doug Lee with SoCal Probate Real Estate. Thanks for checking into my channel. Today we're going to talk a lot about title transfer in probate. So obviously we know that the only way to escape probate is if you have something called the living trust. Living trust will help you escape the probate. It delineates who's going to be the executor and who's going to be the successor trustee. As long as you have the affidavit of death and you have the death certificate, those two items will kind of be the documents that title needs, and then things can transfer over to either the surviving trustee or the successor trustee. Basically, in layman's terms, if the parents pass away and you have the death certificate and you have the affidavit, which basically says that one of them or both of them passed away, title records it, and then you as the child or who is the surviving trustee can then take over and proceed. So that leaves then, now we go to what happens if you don't have the living trust, which is a common situation and you're in probate. So there's a couple situations. What do we have? We have one, joint tenants, right of survivorship, okay? Husband, wife, right. In these situations, you also have married and right of survivorship, joint tenants, right of survivorship, and then you also have married in terms of community property. In each of these three situations, when one spouse passes away, the entire interest goes to the other surviving spouse. Again, there's only two documents you need. You need the affidavit of death, and then you also need the death certificate recorded with title. Then that share will then go to the surviving spouse. Okay. Now, what happens if you hold title but you don't have that? So these are the situations where it definitely has to go through probate. So what is that? Number one, John Doe and Mary Smith married, but it doesn't say right of survivorship. John Doe and Mary with no vesting mentioned. Or maybe the property is just held in title as John Doe. Each of those situations, the property has to go through probate, unfortunately. And that's why you're here. The other situation where it'll also have to go through probate is this thing if the John Doe and Mary Smith own the property as tenants in common. So what is tenants in common? Let's suppose tenant in common can almost be a situation where, let's suppose they own 10% interest in a 100-unit apartment complex. They may own the property as tenant in common. Because they own it in tenant in common, it still has to go through probate. Again, it goes back to the only thing you can do to avoid it is that it's got to be in a living trust. Hope that answers your questions. Be sure to check in again next week for my next video. Have a great day.